So, how much ammunition do you really need? I get this every once in a while, not so much here on YouTube, but just in my personal life. There's a lot of people who have these questions, and I've been approached like maybe a handful of times in this past year alone. The art of prepping, what is the amount? Is there a special number? And there isn't. For one, it's about how much as you can afford. Number two, how much storage capability do you have? Number three, how many different calibers do you have? And how many different types of guns do you have? And what are the needs that you're actually prepping for? And what are the threats that you perceive? And these people don't typically think about any of it. They just think about, oh, there's a certain number out there. You go on different websites. Some of them are pretty big websites, and people respect these people, apparently. And they have these specific numbers, like 1,000 rounds for a minimum for your rifle, or 2,000 or 5,000 for a 22 long rifle, or 10,000, I see that a lot, 10,000 rounds minimum for a 22 long rifle type of setup. And I'm like, wow, where did that come from? How do you get to that point that you say someone needs 10,000 rounds as a minimum? How do you get to that point saying that your battle rifle should have a minimum of 1,000 to 2,000 rounds? Some of them actually have a little bit of justification saying, well, if you kind of do the math, you get so many bullets in a magazine, and you want to have so many magazines because the average firefight based off of military intel, lasts this long and requires this many bullets. So you want to have the capability to have this many firefights. I mean, I can kind of get that. But the fact is that, ammunition costs a bit of money. And the fact is that it can be a distraction from your more critical preps, food, water, first aid, and other things. And while you need the ammunition for personal protection and to be a responsible person to protect your family and yourself, it is not the end-all be-all. And I really do not like these individuals who say, well, I'm just going to take my gun and my ammunition and take things from other people. That's a pretty pathetic thing to say. And I know actually a couple people that I know personally that have said that. And hopefully that was mostly in joking. And I kind of think it was to some degree. But I can only imagine, though, someone trying to do that. Going up to someone's home that has kids, and that they're not armed because they're very, they're liberal and they're left-wing and they think guns are evil, even though they don't understand it's the person behind the gun that's evil. Guns are not evil. They're just it's an object. People are so stupid. But you can go to their house and you take their little bit of food that they had left over and you look at their starving kids and you walk out. You've got to be a sociopath or a psychopath to even do that. So real preppers don't do that kind of shit. And so the fact that we can look now and say, what are the needs that we're going to have? And we can actually fulfill them now and create a reserve or a cache of that now. That's insight that you need to take to heart and do. So freaking do it. And instead of putting like thousands of dollars into more ammo, maybe just take a little bit of that at least and buy more food. Well, I mean, what would you rather have? More food or more ammo? Well, you may say, well, maybe you're in a firefight. Maybe you live in a very dangerous area already, and there's going to be a hell of a lot of gunfire. And you may have to have a lot of gunfire to suppress their gunfire. I don't know, man. If it's that bad, move the freak out, as I always say. If your area is that bad, move on out of there. But you do need to have some ammo, but once again, it's just another category. It's not the category. And so now you may still press a little harder, but what about a number? Give me a number, people. People want a number on every caliber and all this stuff. Well, it depends on what it is. If it's your concealed carry gun, you may not have to have a lot of ammo for that, man. I mean, seriously, how much ammo can you even carry on you? And that's kind of the point, right? I mean, if you don't have it on you, then it doesn't really matter how much you have stashed somewhere else. So, I mean, maybe, a few hundred rounds, maybe here and there, and, put into loaded magazines, spread out different places in your vehicle, home, and so forth. That can make sense. I think that's pretty rational. A few hundred rounds, maybe. In terms of maybe your so-called battle rifle, or survival rifle, that could be a lot more intense, because if you're thinking about like shit hits the fan like big time, you're going to probably want a few more boxes than just what comes into a value pack. And so you may really want to have hundreds, if not maybe a few thousand. That would probably be on the low side. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. But that's up to you of what you consider excessive or what you can afford. So yeah, I would consider having at least a few thousand rounds is a good idea as a starting point for your battle rifle. And for shotgun shells, you probably won't be shooting your shotgun as much as maybe like a battle rifle. So instead of maybe thousands of rounds, maybe just a few hundred rounds would probably be a pretty good start. And going beyond that is up to you. So, of course, everybody wants to talk about the .22 long rifle. Yes, it's fairly inexpensive to some degree. It's gone up a little bit more in price as of mid-2016. A lot more gouging going on. People taking advantage of that price point. And yes, it's a very small caliber. It's not the most useful to some degree, but it does have uses. And, I'm not going to say if I am or am not a fan of that bullet, but I will say it does work, and it's worthy of you to look at. And with that being said, though, I would definitely have, if you have a .22 long rifle, handgun, or rifle, you need to have ammo for that. And I think that because of the size, and still generally speaking, even though the people are ripping each other off and price gouging on the .22 long rifle, I still think that you can get a good amount for, I don't want to even call it a fair price, but an okay price. And I would probably still do that, So just make sure that you take care of your ammunition, your ammo, and basically just make sure it doesn't get any moisture, just kind of watch your humidity and, so forth and so forth. And so, yes, you need to have ammo, but the number is really arbitrary. Really is arbitrary, I mean, if you know that you're going to have to hunt and you're living in a freaking rural area and it's teeming with game, and in a grid down situation, you're pretty confident that most people will not, exodus in your area and just wipe out the wildlife. Maybe then and then only, maybe you would, beef up on those hunting rounds or hunting rifle cartridges. I could see that. I could see that you may want to have a few, maybe 1,000, 30-06 or, maybe 308s or whatever to take down the bigger game if that's something that you need. But for the average person, though, that lives in urban area downtown in a high rise, like a high sky rise, they have a 308 battle rifle that's like a bolt rifle. I mean, in that term, that might be a little bit odd. That might be a little bit, I don't know. I'm not going to knock it, but I'm just saying that could be a little bit harder to justify than just having a more compact 5.56 semi-automatic magazine-fed rifle and maybe a concealed pistol. Those two make more sense to me. But everybody has their philosophies, and this is my philosophy. And I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you real soon.